I am one of the people who, when I think of David Duchovny, I don't think of his character from the X-Files.
What?
It's not the first thing that comes to mind. I think David Duchovny actually has one of the best performances in television history on a show on Showtime called Californication, where he plays a struggling writer. And I think it's one of the greatest performances on television in history. So it's not the first place I go to is the X-Files, and it's certainly not the film we're talking about today.
No, yeah, this is the movie. I think it was filmed right when X-Files was teetering off.
Yeah, I get the feeling that it was kind of during like a quick space between seasons, or maybe between as they were about to prep for the movie.
Yeah, so, and this is a little footnote of straight-to-rental movie called Playing God.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to talk about the film from director Andy Wilson today on Kyle and Nick on Film. Play with us. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, and thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing and telling all your friends about the show. We're typically critique the show. We're not going to hopefully give you interest in watching it. Today we're going to talk about a little bit of a cult movie. I don't know, it's kind of forgotten almost. Starring David Duchovny and Timothy Hutton, which is funny because the most famous star in the movie is now Angelina Jolie.
I was just thinking about that actually when I was watching it too. So the film, Playing God, is about Eugene Sands, once a famed LA surgeon, now without a medical license due to a drug addiction, leaves his former life behind to become a surgeon for criminal Raymond Blossom. But when the FBI finds him and attempts to flip him, Eugene is forced to walk the line between criminal and informant as his list of allies shrinks.
Okay, so there's a new movie out called Playing God, and this kind of sparked my interest. I gotta remember this movie from the 90s. Let's talk about it. And now I remember why it's so forgettable. It's a very forgettable movie.
Yeah, there's so many parts of it that lifted me and brought me into the film, and then so many parts that completely flushed me back out.
Right, so it's not really, I would say, an awful film.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a great film, but it's something in the parameter of like, oh, I've seen that movie, yeah. And after we're watching, like, why is it so unforgettable? And there's certain things about it that are attractive. I do like the subculture of it.
Mm-hmm.
That whole flavor of the 1990s, mid-90s. And there's also that little bit of teetering of retro fashion. In the movie. But all the characters in the movie have no chemistry with them.
Yeah, they're kind of all floating on their own. Yeah. And I think I really enjoyed David Duchovny as Eugene Sands. And in fact, I think where the film is at its best is when he's doing surgery. I think all of the surgery scenes are really great. Yeah. I love watching them. I'm not sure if they're medically accurate. Don't even try to get me on that one. But
I don't think they're.
But so many of the scenes, especially the one at the bar, that was one of the best scenes, not just in this movie, but in most mob movies. That scene was so great. And then it's just in a movie that muddles in between those scenes with fairly rote writing. It felt to me like the screenplay was written by a guy who saw a Shane Black movie and said, I can do that.
I like the word muddles because it's muddling in everywhere it goes. Does you want to be an action movie, or do you want to be like a suit noir? Yeah. Do you want to have this action packed? Do you want to have a romance? And everything it does, it muddles.
Yep. And it just feels it's a combination of things done better in better movies. I think again, like without that surgery stuff, the film would be a little bit lost. But I don't know what it was about those scenes, but they were captivating. And they really just kind of, the tension really was there in a film where I didn't feel tension at all in any other scene.
There you go, right. And so, Timothy Hutton's supposed to be the bad guy, and this is one of the first movies he actually plays a bad guy. He actually did Dark Half, and he did half a bad guy and half a good guy. Mm-hmm. But I think this is kind of an evolution. I just don't buy into that. Nobody around him is just going to punch him in the face and say, I'm doing this, I'm taking over now.
I agree. It feels like that performance is completely out of nowhere. And I think that feels to me how it was written. When you look at the dialogue that he's forced to say, I see why he's playing the character this way. It just feels like he's in a different movie. And I think, like for a guy who I think is really, I think he's such a gifted, talented actor, and he works in that character actor realm where he doesn't get the kind of like front level work that he should. But when we just saw him in The Haunting of Hill House, that miniseries on Netflix, he is phenomenal.
Yes.
He really tackles in. This is just a movie where I don't think he's given anything to work with.
And he's trying something, even to be loud with costuming, be loud with something, and it just
like very punchable face.
You just feel like nobody's gonna punch him, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, you have this. It's supposed to have this chemistry with Angelina Jolie's character, David Duchovny. It just doesn't work. They don't really seem like they would be together. They don't seem like they really. It doesn't mesh.
See, I like their interplay. I did. I wasn't bought into like any romantic subtext.
No.
But I definitely felt like these two people would work together. Like that they would get
All right,
stuff
you did.
I did. I bought that
okay.
actually. And maybe it was that I was clinging to something, that I needed something to connect to, but I did find it working. I just think, again, with her, it surprises me that, again, if you watch this film today, and this is the only film you've ever seen, and I said pick the person who's famous now, who's most famous, I wouldn't have pegged Angelina Jolie, because again, just like Hutton, she's not given much to work with.
No.
You know, she's very one-dimensional as a female. Like, she's the female who's the femme fatale kind of.
But throughout the movie, she models.
Yeah, she's just got nothing to do.
When you just stand in the bar and you're smoking, and then you see David Duchovny come in, and you're like, oh. For some reason, you have to find something that attracts somebody to do that. And I like David Duchovny. I like that character. But there's nothing to him where you walk in a bar to buy drugs where you sit there as Angelina Jolie going, that's hot.
That's true, because Duchovny, very attractive man.
Right, but there's nothing like,
to him.
Now, if you had like somebody like Cary Grant, okay.
But I think the thing about Duchovny is it's not about his visual sense. He has a swagger to him, and that's very noticeable on Californication, and it's the way he acts in situations. That's what makes him such an endearing character on The X-Files, and it's also what makes him work in Californication, is that he works within the confines of a scene, and again, not having anything to do with the script, because, I mean, again, we're doing this kind of
he's not going to blast
noir-esque narration that I don't think worked very well, because he doesn't narrate very well for what his character is. I didn't buy that his character would narrate this story.
Feel sorry for me because I'm a drug addict and I lost my license.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I won't. No.
Yeah.
No, I won't. And then I would say a lot of the things are just the choices, like when the FBI comes to David Duchovny's character's house. That is shot so awkward. It just, and it's like, really, the choices, I mean, it's almost like you could have done something a little more entertaining. You just have David Duchovny sitting behind a desk going like this, and you shoot that, and it's like, do something with it. Move the camera, move it, something like that. Where it's very like, maybe scheduling had to be quick that day, but it just looks out of place. It looks very college film.
And that could be down to what we talked about before the show started, which was that this film had negative test screenings, and it was completely recut. And it actually took a year off its release calendar, and it came out a year later because they tried to bungle together, which is always like, I don't know why Disney really thought this film was going to work. They own Touchstone Pictures.
Well, I remember the TV ads were just simply playing God. They only have the sequence of Angelina Jolie with the lighter and the scalpel, and then that, and it's supposed to have intensity, show the intensity, and then you have the car chase and everything. But then you watch the movie like, you sold me on action, and I'm getting it.
And it makes me wonder what else was cut, because Jolie had said in an interview that there was 2 sex scenes that she did for this film that were cut out. Which, if you're trying to sell your movie,
what the hell?
That probably would have sold it pretty well.
What the?
And she said there's even footage of them featured in the trailers, and the film that came out didn't have either. So I wonder what else was cut. Maybe something that would have given her character something to do. Maybe something that would have explained why Timothy Hutton's character is the way he is.
Right, but you don't get that. And you have this very, and I understand the aesthetics of having a meeting on the beach and everything, but it's just so flat.
Yeah, Hutton's character felt kind of like Paul Walker's character in She's All That, where he's like always at the beach and he's always, bleached his hair, and you just want to punch him a whole bunch. And I think that's I was not convinced that he has this enterprise of villainy.
No, right. It's almost cartoonish almost. You're almost playing into the Joel Schumacher Batman kind of thing.
He's the kind of Bond villain that gets shot by the other Bond villain.
Right. You're like, wait, how are you taking over? And of course, so there's a lot of things that I would say choices of camera work. And then don't work. But then you get the subplot of David Duchovny all of a sudden likes basketball for some reason.
Yeah, that kind of happens.
What the hell? And then he goes plays basketball in like jeans.
He plays basketball in jeans. He still has the glasses on. His hair doesn't look like it's been like uncoiffed or anything. But it's just that great moment where he like shoots a basket and he's like, "All right, that guy's in for me." And he goes, "That guy right there," and he like points at this guy like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, it just doesn't seem out of place.
I haven't seen this out of place sports sequence since The Room.
Let's talk about football for 30 minutes. No, right. It's just it didn't like if somebody was 6'3" as playing David Duchovny's character, I would understand. But just and then you go play in jeans. It's just you know.
Just
I were trying to do something like White Man Can't Jump, or we're trying to blend into something that kind of subculture texture to it, but it seems so out of place.
Yeah, when you have a movie that, I mean, I think David Duchovny is one of the most charismatic actors that's ever worked. I mean, when you look at him on the two shows mentioned, not to mention his character on Twin Peaks, like he's always able to play to a charisma level, and he just, there's so many sequences in this film that you feel like he had something that was cut off and removed. And for the whole first half of the movie, he's kind of stuck in a boat going down a river, and he's just going from scene to scene and reacting, but not really doing anything. And it isn't until the FBI guy comes in and blurs the lines a little bit that I started wondering, oh, there's something here. Like, that's when I started to pick up on the film a little bit more, and it kept me all the way to the, like, right before the finale. The finale, I was kind of back at it.
All the characters are neutered, pretty much. And like you said, probably cut out the sex scenes too, and that makes them all neutered. And you think if you had David Duchovny, that somehow you would navigate around, rather than just being an action hero, you navigate how you can manipulate people to solve the ways, and he doesn't have that. You would think that CEO has some intellectual way of navigating to solve the problem, and you don't even get that. It's just happened circumstance. So a lot of it's muddling.
Yeah, there's even things like his drug use and his dependence on that is a plot point that I feel like was gonna do more.
And it doesn't.
But if you remove,
he looks like a very healthy heroin addict.
Yeah, and even like the part where he's trying to kick it, they just kind of gloss over it, and you're like, oh, is it passed?
The bathroom scene.
Well, the whole portion where he's trying to kick it, in the bathroom and everything like that. I didn't buy into any actual struggle there.
Yeah. Are you going to judge me? Yes. You're in the bathroom looking for cleaning products to.
And you have a shotgun. Like, I'm kind of judging here silently, but I'm here.
Yes.
And like the whole idea that she says to him, like, because of course, like you get the character, she's in pain, so she's like, I'm gonna go to bed. If you need me, come get me. And it's like, that's not what you tell someone getting off drugs who has a shotgun in the bathroom because he has to defend himself. Is, don't worry, I'll be asleep. Just come find me if you're struggling. No, he's struggling. Let's get something more here.
So it has very much an aftershock flavor of Tarantino. This came out after Pulp Fiction. This came out Reservoir Dogs. So people want to have that kind of environment of like Elmer Leonard books.
Yeah, I was thinking True Romance specifically.
True Romance, Elmer Leonard's, books of Get Shorty and Out of Sight and stuff like that. So they're very characters that don't have regular jobs. Are very not good people. But if you're going to do that, then don't neuter the characters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to be a heroin addict, for God's sakes,
be a heroin addict.
Be an awful heroin addict. Don't look like it's nice and it's almost cute, almost. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I think the Tarantino-ness and the Shane Blackness were the two influences on this film that I thought were really. And again, like it's admirable to go for that, but those two are screenwriters where it's a gift and something that they've owned, and you just aren't going to hit it if you try to be exactly like them. Right. And it feels like the film is voiceless because they're trying to reach for two other better screenwriters in this age. And I think that's where I saw the biggest problem was that they tried to make some of their villains, like John Hawkes appears in the film as a villain. He's a gun-toting guy, and like there's that scene where he has Duchovny looking over the dead body, and he's like, bring him back to life. He cocks the gun, he pulls the hammer back like 30 times in that scene, and it's like, are you still like prepping to shoot him? Like you're not doing any more work. And then they have that scene in the car with John Hawkes' character where he's yelling at the other guy. And like they have this very aimed for comedic scene with these two killers.
Outrageous.
And I just didn't buy that at all.
Yeah. It's
and
almost like,
you're missing something there.
You're missing something where I think Shane Black and Tarantino work well is outrageous characters, but they know their rules. They know why they need to be outrageous and exaggerated.
Yeah.
Eric Stone's being a drug dealer. Of course he's kind of,
Well, and you have people that prior to this film and post this film have done some larger than life characters. You've got 3 actors who appeared on Twin Peaks. You've got 4 actors that will eventually appear on Deadwood. And they've all had the ability to play this legendary status on both of those shows. And you kind of don't have any legends.
Yeah, because Roger Ebert, when he critiqued this, says it's not a good movie, but it's a great platform to catapult a lot of people in this movie. And it did. It catapulted everybody to go on to do better things.
Yeah, and I think what you have there is you have something where it's obvious that the story elements aren't there and that the writing isn't. And I don't need to keep picking on the writing, but it's obvious that the writing just is not where
it got edited 3 times,
and that the film was tackled, and yet still there are parts of it that shine through, and it's our three leads that really shine in a film that doesn't service them.
Yeah. So I think it's sold David Duchovny could headline a movie.
Yeah.
This is the first movie that David Duchovny put his name and headlined a movie.
Exactly.
And even though through always criticisms of it, it's still effective and is able to go on to do other movies and TV shows as well. And it's another evolutionary step for Timothy Hutton, who is kind of stuck doing almost supporting roles.
Yeah, it was definitely I think he was trying to launchboard him to something different. And I think actually now he's found his official footing. Mm-hmm. And that he's done some great work before that, but like now he's doing his best work in this stage of his career today. Yeah. And I think Angelina Jolie showcases that she's been in quite a few movies where like the movie is not up to par with her, and I think this is one of them. And she's had a couple other roles where she's like doing all the heavy lifting. I think of the Maleficent movies for Disney.
She's doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Those movies are not lifting her up; she's lifting them up. So
yeah. So I think it's an interesting footnote to check out because it's not one of the most celebrated. We're explaining why it's not a celebrated movie, but it's interesting to watch what style was for 1995. This is lack of style to it, and even going back to the retro fashion and everything, and what do we like characters, what do we like about it, you know, the Tarantino, Shane Black, and Elmore Leonard stories. Well, this is trying to be like that. It's just kind of
exactly. So, have you seen Playing God? Let us know in the comments section down below.
It's a forgettable movie. You might have forgotten that you watched.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's the kind of film, if you see it streaming and you're really interested, I don't think it's an awful movie.
No,
it's just not
it doesn't go awful.
It's just kind of that forgettable, okay-ish route where some things really worked for me. I think if you're into like Surgeon for the Mob movies,
I think the first 15 minutes of the movie work really well.
Yeah, so there's elements that we both like, and there's quite a few elements we both don't like. But we're not going to hate on this movie. We're just going to say that it's deeply flawed. But still, if you see it streaming somewhere and you want to check it out, go ahead. I don't think this is a movie that's going to ruin your weekend.
It's a little bit of a time capsule, what we liked in 1990.
Yeah. And then let us know what you thought down in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget you can like, subscribe, ring the bell so you can get notified of our newest videos when they drop out. And check on that Patreon link as well down in the description. You can join the Patreon for as low as $1 a month. And you can also join at the $5 tier and up. And then you can help us actually pick some of the different films that we have, like Brian Egger got to do.
Join the Patreon, and you could play God to us.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
I like that.
Oh. Yeah. But until you do that, and until next time, you can find my film reviews on goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my podcast, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts. And you can follow this show, Kyle Nick on Film, on Instagram and Twitter. You can reach out to us that way.
Yes, definitely. The links for that are also down in the description, so we'll see you over there. And until next time, I got nothing better to say. That was great.